On the day the whole village said Amadi was wasting his life on the farm, he planted another row of maize and walked home smiling. Amadi was a small man with big hands and quiet eyes. He lived in a red earth village in southeastern Nigeria, not far from a road that buses rarely traveled. The houses were made of mud and brick. The market came alive on Saturdays, and life moved to the slow rhythm of rain and sun. From the time he could walk, Amadi loved the smell of earth after the rain. He loved the way a seed sat in the palm of his hand like a small promise. When Amadi was a boy, his father gave him a small patch of land behind the house. It was only a few rows wide and full of old roots. Other children in the village dreamed of going to the city, of finding jobs where money came with a stamp, where mornings were hurried and bright lights never went out. But Amadi dreamed of green rows, of sweat turned into harvest. Years passed. Amadi married Neka, who laughed easily and who could carry a basket of yams on her head without spilling a thing. Together they worked that small plot. They planted cassava, maize, peppers, and palm trees. Some seasons the rain came gentle and the maize grew tall. Other seasons the rain refused to fall and Amadi watched the plants curl helpless. The people in the market told stories of relatives who had gone to Lagos and returned with new shirts and empty eyes. The local chief said, "Young men, the city calls." Neighbors said to Amadi, "Why not leave? Why toil and not get rich?" Amadi listened, but he kept working. He rose early, walked his rows before sunrise, checking soil, turning the compost he made from kitchen scraps and dried leaves. He studied small books borrowed from the school teacher. He learned about planting ridges, about spacing seeds so roots would not fight, about planting cover crops to feed the soil. He learned to read the clouds and to save seeds from the best plants. It was not that he was stubborn. He was simply patient in a place where patience felt like a different kind of courage. Time made a pattern. A few seasons of good rain brought small profits. Amadi did not spend the money on new clothes or loud celebrations. He bought a small hand tractor second-hand from a traveling trader, and he fixed it himself with the help of an old mechanic in the next town. He dug a larger pond to catch rainwater and used simple pipes to carry water when the gardener's spring dried. He planted a larger variety of crops, so if one failed, the others might survive. He began to carry his harvest to the Saturday market himself, waking before dawn to catch the traders coming from the neighboring towns. People noticed, but not always kindly. "You will never be a fine man carrying cassava like that," some said. "Why do you waste your life?" Your cousin left for the city and returned with a motorcycle. Even Neka's sister shook her head and said, "If only you would go to the town, Amadi. There are accountants and clerks there." Amadi would only smile and say, "I will not leave the land." It is like a promise. Hard times kept coming, as they do to everyone. One year, a pest called fall armyworm struck the maize fields across the region. Amadi watched the insects eat, and for a long week he felt helpless. He tried everything he had learned: companion planting, neem leaves, and red pepper spray. But the worms kept coming. His crop that year was small. Some neighbors laughed quietly and some shook their heads with sympathy. But Amadi did not sell his good tools or eat his savings. He repaired his fences, rested, and made new plans. Another year, there came a long dry wind, Hamatan, and it cracked leaves and made the soil hard as iron. Many farmers burned their seed stores out of desperation or sold land to pay for loans. The money lenders in the town watched for such faces. They offered quick help with high cost. Amadi resisted. He relied on a simple rule he followed like prayer. Only borrow what you can pay back with a plan. Slowly, steadily, his hard work and careful choices began to change his life. He started a small group with 4 other farmers. Naika, an old widow named Maobi, a young man returning from the city who had failed there named Bello, and a woman who grew the sweetest peppers. They met under the mango tree on market day and shared what they learned. They pooled small savings to buy fertilizer together and negotiated a better price at the market. They taught each other the new ways Amadi had read about and the old ways that had been forgotten. Amadi also learned to add value. Instead of selling raw cassava for little money, he and Neka began to process cassava into gari and fufu, the very foods the city loved to buy. They built a small solar dryer from reclaimed wood and clear plastic sheets bought in the market. The drying let them keep the cassava longer and sell it when prices were higher. They wrapped gari in clean bags and put a hand-painted sign outside their compound. Amadi and Neka's good gari. People from the town tasted it and came back. A trader from a larger market in the city tasted the gari and offered to buy 3 sacks every month. With careful saving, Amadi bought another small plot of land from a neighbor who was moving. He hired 2 young men from the village to help, paying wages fair and teaching them the same careful ways. He did not hire for prestige. He hired because he believed the community would grow together. When his harvest was large, he sold some to pay the wages and saved the rest for seed and for rainy day money. Still, there were times when fear knocked at the door. One dry season, the villagers had little food. A man from a neighboring village spread a rumor that Amadi's harvest had been cursed. That is why he had success. Superstition spread faster than the truth. Some neighbors avoided Amadi's fields. Others pretended not to know him. Amadi ate his small meals and kept to his habits, rising early, checking the soil, and fixing the parts of the hand tractor that broke. Neka would touch his arm and say, "We have enough," and he would breathe out and believe her. One year, a flood came. The river that cut past the southern edge of the village overflowed and washed through fields. Many towns lost what they had planted. Amadi's newest field, on a lower slope, was damaged. He could have given up then. He could have